Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penance when you were perplexed in your duty. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. Purport. The penance Prabhupada begins the purport with a typical Bhakti Vedanta purport kind of statement that upsets the mundane scholars who read his books. Shivaram Maharaj wrote a book justifying or upholding Prabhupada's position in translating such words as penance as devotional service. It's particularly in regard to the Bhagavad-gita purports, where so many times you'll see Krishna writes about yoga or yogi, and Prabhupada translates devotional service or devotee. And they say, he didn't say that, you're cheating. So Shivaram Maharaj has very analytically described how, very logically shown how actually Prabhupada's translation is Bhagavad-gita as it is. And to translate it any other way would be inconsistent with the meaning that Krishna is describing to Arjuna. So here also, Prabhupada has written, penance. Penance by which one can see the personality of Godhead face to face is to be understood as devotional service to the Lord and nothing else. Here, Krishna says, Atmaham tapaso naga, tapo me hridayam sakshad, Atmaham tapaso naga. That penance, tapasya, that is my very heart, and that I am indeed non-different from penance. So, how is this to be understood? To be understood as devotional service. If it's understood as simply penance, then how is it that simply penance is non-different from Krishna when we see that demons like Hiranyakashipu, they also did great penance? And how is it to be understood that it's non-different from Krishna when everyone is doing some kind of austerity? See, people are going from here to Bombay in the train, unreserved, carrying something, selling it in Bombay, coming back. That's also tapasya. So, in one sense it can be said to be non-different from Krishna, in as much as everything is non-different from Krishna. But here specifically Krishna has said, Tapo me hridayam sakshat, that not only is Atmaham tapaso naga, not only am I non-different from tapasya. Well, you may say, well, everything's non-different from Krishna. But specifically, this is my very heart. It's very dear to Krishna. That again we see Bhagavatam later on, while explaining to the yogi who had done much tapasya, Durvasa Muni, Lord Narayana again explained that sadhunam hridayam taham, that the sadhus, they are in my heart. Sadhunam hridayam mahyam sadhubhe hridayam taham. Aranyate najananti naham tebhyo manavati. So we may say that, well, sadhu here, Krishna is saying sadhu. So that can also mean any kind, there are so many sadhus. Durvasa Muni is also a sadhu. But Narayana is refusing Durvasa Muni's request to free him from the offense of insulting of putting Ambarish Maharaj into difficulty, or attempting to kill him. So here, when he's saying sadhu, he's referring to the devotee, and that's made more clear when he's saying that the devotees are in my heart, and I am also in their heart. They know nothing but me, I know nothing but them. So this means the devotee, who is described repeatedly in Shastra, especially Gita and Bhagavatam, those who Ananya Cheta Satatam, whose consciousness is always absorbed in Krishna. Ananyas Chintayantamam, who only think of Krishna without any other thought. So this kind of devotee, he is the very heart of Krishna. He's non-different from Krishna's heart. Just like we see that Bilvamangal Thakur, Krishna, Bilvamangal Thakur was blind, self-blinded, living in Vrindavan. So Krishna as a young boy would come and play with him. And sometimes he'd run away from him. Bilvamangal would say, you can run away from me. You can get out of my grasp, but you can't get out of my heart. You can't get away from me. You have no power to get away from my heart. Recently I saw that someone was asking, this is on email, some conference, someone was asking, that how is it that Gadadhar Pandit is described as having the mood of Rukmini when he's said to be the incarnation of Radharani. So someone gave an explanation, supposed to be an explanation how, well, it's Rukmini, but it's Radha, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Krishna has taken the Radha Bhava Dyoti Suvalitam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken the mood of Radharani. So therefore, Gadadhar is in the mood of Rukmini. It means Radha who lost the love of Krishna that Radha has. A very strange explanation. Radharani, she never loses her love for Krishna. It's a very foolish explanation. Someone who's advertising himself as a great knower of the rasa and is criticizing the gurus in ISKCON, they don't understand rasa. So, but there's no question, Rukmini is Rukmini, and her mood is, she's fully satisfied and happy in serving Krishna in that mood, and Krishna is fully satisfied and happy as Dwarkadish to accept her mood. It's not that Radharani loses her love for Krishna. There's no question. It's not possible that Krishna becomes imbued with the feelings of Radharani. Doesn't mean that Radharani loses them. Radharani is lamenting, I lost my love for Krishna. It's like this fanciful story that's told of Ram Krishna touches Vivekananda, and then Vivekananda has an electric shock, and he faints from the shock, and he wakes up to see his guru, so-called guru, crying. Why are you crying? Because I gave you all my knowledge, now I lost it. This stupid story. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnameva Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The absolute truth is full and complete, and he's so full and complete that even so many perfect units can emanate from him, but his completeness does not become any less. It's a material consideration to think that, just like in the Bible it said that God created the world in 6 days, then he was tired, so he had to rest. So that's a material consideration. God becomes tired. In spiritual platform he may become tired, just like you see. Sometimes you see the picture that Krishna is lying down under a tree and the cowherd boys are fanning him and massaging him. He's feeling tired from playing. But that's his pastime. Not that he's feeling not that it's like us, if we don't eat we feel a lack of strength. If we fast for some days we feel a lack of strength. But Krishna, he doesn't require to eat to be strong. He's only eating to give pleasure to his devotees, to reciprocate the loving exchange with them. So that is why devotees, they should comment on Gita and Bhagavatam, because they can understand what is the actual statement. Otherwise someone may think, I'll go off and do some tapasya, sitting on the banks of the river, fasting for so many days, performing so many yogasanas. And this is the message of Bhagavatam, because here Lord Narayana says that my very heart is tapasya. And no, that's to be understood. That means that devotional service, particularly austerity and here devotional service is being described as tapasya. That particularly refers to devotional service which is performed with austerity. That means that devotees, they take trouble to serve Krishna. Sometimes we're asked why devotees put in so much difficulty. Mostly you'll find all the devotees, they put in difficulty. The Pandavas, Ambarish Maharaj, this Prahlad Maharaj, they're all put in difficulty. If they're not put in difficulty, then how will you see who's a devotee? Everyone can say, I'm a devotee, talk so many things, cry tears in front of the deity, so many things. But the real test will be that how much difficulty we're prepared to take in Krishna's service. That is the test. That in difficulty, there may be so much difficulty, but one remains fixed that I have to go and serve Krishna in any circumstances. On commenting on in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, there's discussion of austerity. So Prabhupada speaks about the two margs, the two paths in devotional service, which run simultaneously, Pancharatrik Marg and Bhagavat Marg. Pancharatrik Marg means in the Pancharatras, the one Vedic literature, supplementary Vedic literature, Pancharatra, there's description of deity worship. So this is mostly concerned with deity worship. And Bhagavat Marg, in Bhagavat Marg, there's mostly described about the loving feelings for the Lord and description of how devotees are serving the Lord in so many various ways. And the Bhagavat, of course, is especially meant to be recited. So Pancharatrik Marg, that's mostly concerned with deity worship. And Bhagavat Marg, that's mostly concerned with kirtan, reciting Bhagavatam, preaching. So Prabhupada says that these two have to go on side by side for devotees. Of course, of the two, Bhagavat Marg is more important. One doesn't at all follow the Pancharatrik Marg, but is fully absorbed in Bhagavat Marg, that is sufficient. But generally no one's fully absorbed, therefore Pancharatrik Marg is required. So Prabhupada commented that in deity worship there are many austerities. That you have so many things to do, so much. Actually deity worship is mostly cleaning. It's the main activity. Sometimes we see devotees that they express they're very interested in deity worship. They're thinking, I'll chant many mantras and this and that, but the main activity is cleaning. If you see, you have to clean the pots, clean the floor, clean the deities, keep yourself clean, everything clean. And of course there's cooking, gathering ingredients, so many things. So there's a lot of physical labor, and it may be very intensive if you have to worship the deities 7 times arati, so many things. There's a lot of work. And then on festival days, especially, there's more seva. And there's no holiday the day after, because the next day again, there's 7 artis and so many offerings. So it's tapasya is involved. And Bhagavat Marg preaching also. Preaching means you have to work hard, go out, meet people. They may not all be very pleasant. Of course, mostly in Gujarat we're finding that some people are unpleasant, but mostly they're respectful towards devotees. If we have to go for distributing books in America, we may not find it so easy. People are often rough and they may be antagonistic in so many ways. But anyway, to preach anywhere there are austerities. You may have to go out in the heat, you may have to mixing with non-devotees, or people who are not very much inclined to devotional service, also austerity. So there are various austerities, physical austerities, just like cleaning, or going out in the heat for long hours, physical austerity, mental austerity. Sometimes for Pujari it can be mentally difficult also to do the same thing every day. Of course, one's on the platform of love, then he likes to do, but also we're not on the platform of love, so to especially if one pujari is doing all the offerings and all the artis. So it's sometimes difficult to concentrate even. Familiarity breeds contempt. Or mentally difficult. Preachers who are going out, you have to meet so many opposing elements, people who are not interested, so many things. So these are austerities in devotional service. This is called Divya Tapasya, transcendental austerity. Tapo divyam putraka yena sadvam shudyad brahma sokyam tvanantam yasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. Rishabdev has recommended, don't waste your life living like a hog or a dog. He directly says, stool eater. Don't waste your time. Austerity is there. Sometimes people, they become upset. Oh, my son, he wants to be a sadhu and join the Hare Krishna movement. And they'll get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and work hard all day. It's not good. Of course, if he goes to America or even here and gets a job as a computer programmer, and then he may be working so many hours. So many, you'll find computer programmers, they're on some project. It's a regular thing, they'll be working up till 12 o'clock at night. But that they won't complain. Or they say, oh, he left home and went away. Of course, if he leaves home and goes to America and gets a job there, they won't be complaining. But if he comes to and joins in the temple, they'll be complaining. And this is the discriminatory outlook of the non-devotees. Their view is that devotional service in and of itself is not good, spoiling the life. But anyway, you have to perform austerity. But if you perform austerity for sense gratification, then what do you get? You get sense gratification, that's all. And it doesn't satisfy. If we perform austerity to serve Krishna, then Krishna is pleased. That is the perfection of life. Yes, Krishna is pleased. Sometimes it's another thing we often hear, actually from our Gauriya Math God cousins. They always say that, they always like to say that, well, everything in ISKCON, it's all external. External. You see, all your worshipping the deity and preaching, and it's all external, because you see, you're not pure devotees, and you don't understand about all the intimate rasas and so many things. It's all external. And what we are doing, that's all internal. And it's just, it's a snide shot. It means it's just like some kind of sour grapes kind of saying that there's no basis to what they're saying. It's all external. Well, in one sense it could be said external. Yes, we're not fully under the internal potency of the Lord, but this is pleasing to Krishna. This is all right. So we're not internal devotees, but what are we expected? What are we supposed to do then? The process. This is the process to become pleasing to Krishna. Unless we do this, unless we go through all these things, how are we going to do it? And simply that by yourself claiming to be on a higher platform, does it make you on a higher platform simply by claiming? Practically we see in this society that Srila Prabhupada set very high standards of deity worship, for instance, keeping clean, having nice festivals, nice offerings. Well, you may say you're more advanced, but certainly is Krishna not more pleased if deities are kept very clean and nice, and so many different nice dresses are offered, and bhog offerings, so many things? So it doesn't seem to be a very valid claim. Or another thing they'll say that is, well, see, in ISKCON there's so many motivated devotees and this and that. There's so many people, they're not on a very high platform. Well, it may be true. Of course, I don't know how true it is anywhere else, anyone is on such a high platform. But the fact is that on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order in ISKCON, we're preaching Krishna consciousness. Preaching means that people are going to come and we have to train them up and try to bring them to a higher platform. So that means people are coming on all different kinds of platforms. Who's a very great elevated devotee? If we're all great elevated devotees, wouldn't be here, wouldn't be in the material world. But the effort is there to uplift others. So again, one may claim himself to be on a very high elevated platform, but According to Krishna in Bhagavad-gita, one who preaches Krishna consciousness, he's the most dear to him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also said that the test of a Vaishnava is how many devotees he makes. And that doesn't mean just that you should only make devotees if they're completely pure and 100% and fully absorbed in rasa niryas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself showed the example by going out and preaching in villages with Namahata. So when it's said that to make devotees means it's a gradual process. Preaching means you have to take people in, purificatory process, engagement. People should be engaged in devotional service. It means there should be deity worship, preaching. Of course they'll say this preaching, it's all external. I don't know what they mean. Preaching is distributing Bhagavad-gita and asking people to chant Hare Krishna. Is this not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order? He gave Shuno Shuno Nityananda Shuru Haridas Savatra Amar Agya Karo Ho Prakash Prati Ghare Ghare Giya Karo E Bhikha Bhaja Krishna Bolo Krishna Karo Krishna Shikha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally sent Nityananda and Haridas, go door to door and tell people to chant Hare Krishna, worship Krishna, study the instructions of Krishna. So, but then someone who was criticizing like this said, but see, that was to the Navadvip Vasis, he was telling. That was to the inhabitants of Navadvip. They're already highly, not to everybody. And again we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say, Jare Dako Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh. That wasn't in Navadvip, he said it, not while he was traveling in South India. So people may claim that we should only the highest state, all or nothing. But this isn't Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching is everyone should take to Krishna consciousness. In every town and village, that is the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamaham Dadati Srapadantikam. We pray, when will Rupa Goswami, who knows the inner feelings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, give his mercy to me? Now, generally that's understood, that Rupa Goswami understood the inner feelings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wrote some verse showing, understanding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feelings of separation from Radharani. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has also given the explanation that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's inner feeling is to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. He also wants to do that. Otherwise he doesn't have to come to this material world. He doesn't have to come here to experience the ecstasy of Radharani. He comes here to preach Krishna consciousness, to give that to others. The highest ecstasy is not personally experiencing that, but inducing or helping others to experience that. So this tapasya and devotional service, this is purifying, and that is very pleasing to Krishna. It's a very cruel thing to say that it's all external, it's all material, people are coming and with whatever little bhakti may be there, they're offering something to Krishna. And you say, oh, it's all useless. It's a very cruel thing to say. And not true either, because we know, otherwise Prabhupada, he gave the idea of Krishna consciousness to others. Now, how is it that people from the Western countries, at that time there were very few vegetarians in the West, and Prabhupada went among the drugged hippies, and how is it that they didn't want to follow anyone? Their idea was, don't follow anyone, be your own man, don't become the follower of anyone. They became the follower of Prabhupada, so much so that they were prepared. Prabhupada said, go to Japan, go here, go there, and they would go to preach whatever they knew. How is it that they changed their life? They gave up so many bad things, free sex. They gave it up. Because they got something better than this material world had to offer. They got something which is in relationship to the soul. That means internal, not external. If it's all external material, then why should they do that? Why should they give up so many sinful activities? Of course, it's true that many who came, they weren't able to maintain the high standard that Prabhupada said. Actually, not very high standard, but for people brought up in the demoniac culture. It's a high standard for them to follow. So that may be that many fell away, but that doesn't mean that what Prabhupada gave was not of any substance. Even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who we're all supposed to be following, he also said that it's a fight against Maya. Preaching is a fight against Maya. So in the fight, some soldiers will get killed. It's inevitable if you preach very widely that people will come and they will go also. But that doesn't mean you stop fighting. You go out on the battlefield with a big army, blow the trumpet. Nowadays they don't blow the trumpet. But then you fight, and as soon as one person's killed, okay, stop the fight. No more fighting. It's very bad. So fighting means someone who's killing is going to be there. That's the risk. Preaching means the risk is there. That we're trying to save people from it. It's just like the doctor is going out in the epidemic area, and he tries to save some people. Some people get saved by his treatment, but some they relapse. So you say, oh, what a useless doctor. You see, so many people he treated, and then they just died anyway. And then so many he saved. Furthermore, in Krishna consciousness, anyone who's even takes to the prayer, it's not like the epidemic where if you die, you die. But no, neha vikramam nashasti pratyavayana vidyate sropalapyasya dharmasya trayate mahatmayat. Anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness, even partially, they're eternally benefited. In the Bhavishya Purana, it's stated that anyone who sees Lord Jagannath on his Rath, they're liberated. That means they get the opportunity for devotional service, either in this life or the next life. So like that, with all the activities, people who hear about Krishna consciousness, the devotees take the penance or the difficulty to go out and chant. Of course, it's very pleasurable also, but some endeavor is required to go out and chant. People are benefited. It may not be that their life will change overnight, but it may change. Will change. They're eternally benefited by that. And that we see. There are devotees who have gone very clearly, by all the symptoms according to Shastra, they have gone back to Godhead by following Prabhupada. Of course, not that many have passed away yet, because most of Prabhupada's disciples, they were young people. But when Prabhupada was preaching, now they're getting older. Soon we're going to see, probably within the next 10 years or so, we're going to start seeing quite a few of Prabhupada's disciples passing away. It's going to become more and more common. Quite a few already passed away, or even grand disciples of Prabhupada. But there are many who have passed away in the association devotees, some of them in the holy dham, chanting the holy names, or hearing the holy names chanted, preparing themselves in the weeks and months before dying, they know that death is coming, so preparing themselves for that. So by all the symptoms, they were Krishna conscious, and they went back to God, because that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, if we believe in Bhagavad-gita, that antakale chamami vasvaram lukvakam yaprayati smatava nasta sanshana. That if one thinks of me at the time of death, he goes to me. So all this process of bhakti, it's all meant for becoming fully Krishna conscious. Whatever austerities we're doing, it's all meant for that. And the result will be there. Krishna has said in the verses previous to this that by this process of bhakti, you'll get my benediction. You can see me face to face. So Brahma, he was ordered to perform tapa. So he did that. At that time he wasn't seeing the Lord face to face. He was hearing, which is non-different. Seeing the Lord and hearing the Lord is non-different. And eventually he got to see the Lord also, because he performed the penance very properly. For Brahma, penance, that was the best method for him to execute devotional service, according to his mentality. Whether one performs Shravan, Kirtan, Manan, Smaranam, hearing, chanting, practicing, remembering by meditation, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaran, whether one performs deity worship, offering prayers, whatever it may be. All these processes, they're all transcendental because they're all meant for understanding Krishna. They all have the same result. Although in this age, due to the mentality of people, it's more effective to chant the holy names of the Lord. Otherwise, all these processes, they're all equally good. Hearing and chanting, that especially, in this age especially. In all ages, all these processes are good. But especially in Kali Yuga, chanting is recommended. Chanting the name of Krishna. So that's also tapasya. Inasmuch as we have to concentrate on it. Many times we hear devotees say, well, I can't concentrate. We can't concentrate because we're not fully pure. But the purificatory method is to chant, and purity will come. That we have to try when we... Just because some bag, I don't know why. So they put the flowers and then they threw the bag. Very nice. Not very nice. So that tapasya is to bring the mind back to the sound Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So it's easy just to go through. Relatively easy just to go on with chanting, but then to bring the mind back again and again. That is the tapasya. Serving the Lord, it's also tapasya. To want to serve Krishna more and more, that is a sign of advancement in devotional service. It means that one is prepared to undergo difficulty for Krishna. Krishna is very pleased with that. Everyone has physical limitations, and we should also be careful about looking after the body because we have to serve the Lord with this body. So if we push it too much, we may find the body breaks down. But at the same time, we don't want to be too much ease-loving. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur criticized one of his sannyasi disciples as an ease-lover. How do we say? Arambali. Aram Priya, we could say. Very fond of easy life. Halo manda kai heri pori chintahin kobo na bhavi e deha charibo kono din. This Bhakti-Vinod Thakur has analyzed the mentality of the free and easy going person. He's a what's that word? Scot-free person. Chintahin, no worries. I eat something, whatever I eat, okay. I wear some clothes, whatever it is, okay. No problem, everything's nice, it's a great world. Have a good time, enjoy yourself. That's considered to be it, just like you're reading here. How 2 verses earlier, how the Lord is giving the benediction. You can see me. So often in the Western countries, people give the benediction. Have fun, enjoy yourself. When they meet you. I remember when I was in Amsterdam, the only time I went there. This was what? End of 1979, beginning of 1980. So I just arrived in the train station, how to reach the temple. So I was wandering in the street and I asked a couple who were about 40 years old, intoxicated. I was in kami clothes and I had some long hair. I'd been doing some collection. I had to go back to Bangladesh. So I didn't know I was a devotee. So I asked them, I stopped someone. It happened to be this intoxicated couple. I don't know how to reach this place where the temple is, the address. And so, oh, you go here and you go there and you go there. And then, okay, enjoy yourself, have fun. It's like, wow, you came to Amsterdam. This is the city where people come to enjoy themselves. So we are residents of Amsterdam and we are giving you the benediction. that you can enjoy yourself and have fun. So this carefree person, chintahin, but nahi bhavi, I never think, I'm going to have to die someday. I have to give up the ghost, as they say, give up the body. Someday I have to die. So we may also, as devotees, we may be thinking, well, chant a little, sleep a little. We have to think, we have to be ready for the time of death. One time, one devotee, he asked all his big assembly, he asked, are you ready for death? Does anyone think they're ready for death? If you had to die now, do you think you're ready? One or two said, well, maybe. And the others thought, no. He said, I'm not ready. I have to do something for Prabhupada. I don't want to leave this world without doing something for Prabhupada. So that's another approach. One side we have to think, we have to make ourselves ready. That means we have to become purified by the tapasya of devotional service, engaging in devotional service. The other side, we should think that, well, it's not just, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then I'll get the mercy. Then I'll be, no, not that point. If I do so much, then surely I'll be Krishna conscious. I'm going to start chanting 64 rounds a day, and only eating 2 spoons of rice every day. Because someone may take the 2. I'm only eating 2 spoons of rice a day. They don't tell you. Actually, I'm eating 40 chapatis also. So there may be some bogus austerities. Sometimes we see people performing chaturmasya. I'm not taking spices. I'm not taking sugar. And then see having a whole big feast they made. 40 preparations. I'm not taking spices or sugar. But everything else is there. Like preparations thick with honey and ghee and so on. Certain things I've seen in all these years. Following chaturmasya, so very strict. So we may think that if I follow so many things, certain austerities, then I must become Krishna conscious. I'll force I'm going to chant 64 rounds. Definitely I'm going to become Krishna conscious, you see. When I die, I'm going to say, okay, Krishna, come and take me. I chanted 64 rounds a day. No, we have to get the mercy also. So one side we have to do our bit. The other side we have to call out for the mercy. That example is given there. And the Damodar Lila. Why Mother Yashoda's robe was always 2 inches too short. Why 2 inches? Why not 1 inch or half an inch? So Jiva Goswami analyzed that this means, it shows that to reach Krishna, there are 2 things. One is our own endeavor and the other is the mercy of the Lord. So both things are required. And the 2 things go together, just like the rope, the 2 inches of rope that eventually came, it's all one rope. The 2 things are intertwined. Rope means it's intertwined. There are many strands which are intertwined, they become strong. Just like another word for rope is gun. So 3 modes of material nature, 3 strands, they're all mixed together, it's very strong. So you can't disentangle it. That's described about the material world, about it's like a great forest, like a great banyan tree, no one can find. Ashvatam praharavyayam, it's an indestructible tree. No one can find the beginning or the end. So, how to get free from these 3 modes which are very tightly binding us up? Chitvainam sanshayam yogam atishtotishtha. You have to cut with the sword of knowledge the doubts which have arisen in the heart. That jnana asina, or the sword of knowledge, you have to cut through them. Just like the example of Alexander the Great. there was an oracle. Oracle means like Akashvani. That there was some big knot. Anyone who can untie this, they will be the conqueror of the world. So no one could untie it. They're pulling this way and that way. And one day the young boy, Alexander, came, took his sword, cut it. Hey, wait a minute. I disentangled. The knot is no longer there. He cut it. So in the same way, the only way to get free from the modes of material nature, there's no, just like you see, they're making plans for peace, how to live very nicely in this world. Even they're going to God. God bless us that we can live in peace. God's not going to bless you that you live in peace. God is going to bless you that you won't have any peace. That's the material world. If there's peace, then that just means you're in more maya. So better not have peace. God's blessing is if there's no peace. That's His real blessing. So that we can surrender to Him. More feelingly surrender to Him. So we have to cut through. That is possible, that discussing this jnana asana, Prabhupada discusses that taking the sword of knowledge, we have to take the sword of knowledge from Krishna and Balaram, and with the mercy of devotees, we have to know. Even you take the sword, you have to know how to use it. In the movie, you may see someone, they just pick up a stick and they're fighting with someone, but actually stick fighting, it's not. You have to learn how to do it. Sword fighting, there's a whole art. It's not just a big strong guy and you pick up a sword. You have to know how to fight. It's a whole art. Kshatriyas, they're trained. So you have to take the knowledge and learn how to use it. That's why simply book knowledge is not enough. You say, I'll read all the books and I'll become Krishna conscious. Also, there has to be trained how to do, what is pleasing to Krishna. So personal guidance is required also. That is the mercy. We have to get the mercy of devotees, mercy of the Lord. So our endeavor is there, but ultimately that depends on the mercy of the Lord. On the other hand, if we say, I'll just get the mercy of the Lord, I won't do anything. I'm just praying for Krishna's mercy. Sometimes people, we ask them, you please start chanting Hare Krishna. They say, when I get the mercy of God, then I'll chant. What do you expect? God has to come down personally and bow down at your feet and beg you, please chant. He's already giving the mercy in the instruction. Mercy means the devotees, they carry the instruction. This is the mercy. But if you're determined, then you're in a very high-sounding way, I'm waiting for God's mercy. You won't recognize it even if it's there, but you refuse to recognize because they don't want to do it. So the mercy is the opportunity. And again, there's another misunderstanding. People say, well, the mercy is just you have to get the mercy of sadhus. But they don't know what the mercy of sadhus is. I think we'll invite the sadhu to our house. And that way, our house will become purified. The real purification is if you take the instruction and follow. If he simply goes, okay, that's nice. But you have to follow the instruction. Just like it said, the bug, the bed bug, may have very close association with the king, and maybe one of the king's intimate associates. But the king is, the bed bug is not on the level of the minister or the wife. Very intimately associated, but is not doing any service, it's just sucking his blood. So you may say that the bed bug is more intimately associated with him even than his wife. Wife is sucking blood, and the bed bug is also sucking blood. So it's very intimate, but it's not in the same category. There's no reciprocation of service. So one may be very close, you may be very closely associated, but if you don't follow the instruction or act in such a way that is pleasing to the sadhu, then what is the use? Of course, sometimes people have the idea Sadhu ko khush karo, make the sadhu happy. That was being said sarcastically recently in Gujarat when this was what, 2-3 years ago, this story of this sant in Dwarka who was running a girls' orphanage. So he was, anyway, you can imagine. It wasn't simply out of altruism that he was doing. So, how to make the sadhu happy? Not satisfying his senses, no. Sadhu will be, of course, one is enjoined in Shastra, one should. Guru Seva, there's Anga Seva, means one should serve the body, means arrange, there's prasadam, sleeping arrangements, bathing, all these different things. That should not be neglected. But the real thing, Guru will be happy if he sees that disciples are engaging in the service of Krishna without any personal motivation, fully dedicating themselves. So that will be more pleasing. Sometimes people, they like to serve the sadhu very nicely, but they have some personal motivation. So sadhu should be served nicely, but without personal motivation. So that's also a kind of tapasya. That's the real tapasya. More of a tapasya than simply denying oneself nice food, nice clothing. The real tapasya is to give up all material desires. One may be doing all these things, but within the heart, cultivating material desires. In Gita, Krishna says, Mityachara sa uchyate. One who externally restrains the sense organs, but is doing so internally, cultivating a mode of sense gratification. Like Hiranyakashipu, he refrained from sense enjoyment by performing austerity. But his purpose was to ultimately enjoy more. So, one has such a motive. It's not pleasing to Krishna. Just as in the room the other day, they were showing some old movie of Tukaram life story. So it showed how one Brahmana, he had gone to the house, one priest there in the temple of the Vittal in Pandharapur. He had gone to the house of the prostitute and said that he was laughing and speaking with her that, oh, I kicked that Tukaram out of the temple, now he can't come anymore. Now I'll be the saint around here. People will come and touch my feet. I will enjoy. So if someone is performing austerity, Krishna is pleased by the attitude of the devotee. Even if he's not externally a tapasvi, there are examples. Of course, all the Dwarkavasis, they're living in great opulence. Even in Vrindavan, they're living in great opulence. Vrajavasi, in the spiritual world. Now we go to Vrindavan and we see basically a rundown, not very wealthy, typical town in UP. But the description in Shastra of the Vrindavan as it really is, the Nanda Maharaj, big palace, Rishabhanu Maharaj, big palace, so many servants. So there's so much, we say that Dwarka is opulent, but Vrindavan is also very opulent. But the mood in Vrindavan is there's more appreciation of the simple opulence. The forest, the cows, the Yamuna, the birds singing, the wind blowing very gently and pleasingly. So that's great opulence. Of course, those things are also there in Dwarka. There's also birds and trees, and it's a city, but it's not like the modern city where people are squashed up in little apartments. You can't turn around in the bathroom but there are also big parks and gardens and lakes. So that's an opulence. In the modern city, you don't hear birds. All you hear is this auto rickshaw sound or some squeaky cinema music or something like this. But In the country there's nice fresh breeze and nice different trees, so many different birds and different kinds of animals. Just I'd been out in the country and I saw these big deer. I never saw a big deer like this in India, like this high, without the, higher, I can't reach so high. Without, that's just up to the shoulder and the neck comes up more. In India before I only saw small deer like this, very big ones. So big deer, so many peacocks. Of course sometimes even in the middle of the night they're making a big noise. Peacocks, very loud. And so many parrots and so many different birds. I never saw it. I just saw some birds that I never saw. So like black, brownish color, just a little bit bigger than a chicken with a small head and a very long big beak. So many different kinds of birds and mongoose. One time I saw the group of this nilgai. Have you seen? In Saurashtra they have more. I think they call blue cow. It's some species of donkey, kind of blue-grey color. So many. That's a great. It's very pleasing to be in such an atmosphere, especially if there's some stream, some water flowing. It's very pleasing. Whereas in the city, everything is just disturbing all the time. Some noise is there, some smell. People are cooking onions or meat. And there's some. In Baroda, you'll find the factory smell is there, or the pollution from the car. So here now, he's taking outside. That's good. Start it outside. If you're going to use these horrible things, then at least don't blast the whole temple room full of nasty smelling exhaust fumes. Revving up their motor. They like that. People in the mode of ignorance, they take pleasure. They like to make a big noise. Rah, 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 rah. They go on again and again, revving the motorbike, and then they sit on it like this, as if I'm a very big, strong. I'm in my motorbike. Like this. In the West, you see this more. They have this. I think now they have motorbikes 2,000 cc. It's more than the Maruti car. How much is the Maruti? It's only 700. 800 is it? And they have 2-liter motorbike. I mean, you have to be a weightlifter even to sit on it practically. So they make a big. It's all in the mode of ignorance. So the opulence of Vrindavan is not seeing Krishna as the Supreme Lord, but seeing him as the Vrindavana Natabara, the dancer of Vrindavan. Vrindavana Purandara, Bipin Bihari. That's another. There are so many names. Bipin Bihari. He's enjoying pastimes in the forests and gardens. Yamuna Tatachara. He goes on the bank of the forest. So there's no tapasya there. Everything there is simply enjoyment. But to come to that position, it's required that we perform some austerity in Krishna's service, because there's no tapasya, in the spiritual world, there's no feeling of tiredness or any such thing. Only for lila there may be. There's not, just like in this material world. What is this material world? Ma. Pa means parishram, followed by fena, foaming at the mouth due to exhaustion and overwork. Then ba means betata, means simply it's all useless anyway. Disappointment. Bhiti, fear, and then ma, mrityu. The result, the wages of sin are death. Simply you work, you're disappointed, you're exhausted, and you die. This is material life. But in the spiritual world, there's only ecstasy. And even if you're tired or hungry, it's all spiritual ecstasy. There's no disappointment. So to enter the spiritual world is required to be qualified. So the qualification is that one is prepared to fully give himself to Krishna. Therefore this tapasya in devotional service is required. That how much we're willing to give ourselves to Krishna without any personal consideration. So sometimes we see that some maya is being preached in our movement, that we worked so hard for many years, and what did we get out of it? I didn't get a house, I didn't get a car, you should give me this and that. No! The devotee is very happy that I'll work all my life. And only that I'll be happy if Krishna is pleased, that's all. Krishna is pleased every moment we're performing service to him. But a devotee is the only that Krishna will be pleased with. And if we're thinking, well, I should get some facility and this and that, well, that is just the opposite. We don't want. If you're asking for this facility, this, that means that this is something to bind us in this material world. Rather, we should be akinchan. If I have nothing, sometimes we're hearing devotees say, well, what will happen when I get old? Who will look after me? Very good if you get old and there's no one to look after you. Then you'll only depend on Krishna. You won't have any other recourse. That's why Krishna takes away everything from those who are trying to be devotees and at the same time take shelter of this material world. Krishna takes everything away. And then Prabhupada writes here in this book, if they again try and get, I lost everything. Okay, let me try and get everything back together. And again Krishna will take it away. And then like Draupadi, Krishna, 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 Govinda, 2 hands, full surrender. Now I have no other shelter but you. So that is tapasya. It's physically taking difficulty and also that mentality. That I'm not performing any of this austerity for any material thing, but only for Krishna. We have to be very careful because sometimes Maya presents herself in the form of devotional service. That, well, I need this and I need this. So many times I've heard devotees in India saying that, well, I need to go to America to improve my devotional service. I can't properly perform devotional service here because, I'm too much attracted to my family. But then they go there and they get a family, they make another family. They're working in the temple and then for 2 years, 3 years, and as soon as they get their green card, then off. No more devotional service. So the Maya may come in so many forms. So we have to be very careful. We may think that, well, I have to be a sannyasi and then everyone will respect me properly and then I can preach. You don't have to be a sannyasi to preach. If your motive is to preach, then taking sannyas, that may be helpful. Maybe not. In ISKCON today it may work the opposite way. You never know. But if you're thinking that, well, first of all I need to get so much facility and respect and then I can preach. So therefore, one of my godbrothers was telling me he had to taking sannyas because no one takes him seriously. And he has to get that. There's a little bit like this, thinking that, you see, I see sannyasis when they go here and there, people arrange the programs and this and that, but it doesn't happen automatically, even for sannyasis. You have to make relationships with people, and then when they feel that, yes, we feel that we want to arrange a program because that will have such a nice effect of preaching. We want to introduce people to this sannyasis because we feel they'll be benefited. Otherwise, you can take sannyas, but if you act in such a way that people are not inspired in Krishna consciousness, it doesn't make any difference whether you're holding a stick or not, whether you're officially a sannyasi or not. You don't preach in such a way that people are benefited, then no one will be happy. It's not simply that taking sannyas doesn't automatically make one a better preacher. And then it doesn't automatically mean that people will want to support and help either. But that may come, then that's some kind of material desire. I should take sannyas for this reason or that reason. So you have to be very careful. Tapasya, austerity, that is described in Bhagavad-gita, austerity of speech, austerity of the body, austerity of the mind. So the mind also. The mind should take sannyas. Then we can think about other things. So Brahma, he's being congratulated by the Lord that, yes, I'm very pleased with your austerity. He didn't congratulate Hiranyakashipu that I'm pleased with your austerity. Rather, he chastised Brahma. Why have you given him these benedictions? It's just don't give benedictions like this again in the future. It's just a cause of disturbance. So it's not that austerity in and of itself is pleasing to Krishna, but it's the attitude with which one does it. If one performs austerity for the sake of pleasing Krishna, Krishna is very, very pleased. But then again, we have to see what's pleasing to Krishna. We may think, I'll fast all day, that will be pleasing to Krishna. But if we preach all day, that may be more pleasing. Just like one time, one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciples, his Ekadashi, everyone was fasting, so he took some prasad and went out for preaching. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, he has understood what is our mission. More important than performing austerities for one's own sake. Not exactly for one's own sake, that's for Krishna's pleasure, but we're fighting a war against Maya. So one who understands that and takes up that mission is very, he gets more mercy. War means that it has its own austerities also. There are so many, for one who actually wants to preach, there are so many difficulties you have to go through. So that is austerity, and that will be simultaneously, that's very pleasing to Krishna. So let us do that. Let's not try to avoid difficulties in Krishna service. Generally everyone's trying to avoid difficulties. But if we accept, tapasya and devotional service means to accept, we have to do whatever has to be done, do the needful, as Prabhupada used to say. So whatever needs to be done to please Krishna, we should do, even if it involves some personal difficulty. Hare Krishna. We should also pray for the mercy, and our endeavor should be in such a manner that we attract the mercy of the devotees and Krishna. Sadhana siddhi means ultimately you have to get the mercy of the Lord. Otherwise you can go on doing sadhana for millions of lifetimes. But ultimately you have to get the mercy of the Lord. The one who puts more emphasis on his own endeavor, they are called sadhana siddhas, if they achieve siddhi. They may eventually get the mercy. But kripa siddhi, that's a much quicker process. Eventually, just the example is given of Markandeya Rishi, who after a long time of performing his sadhana, then he got benedicted by the Lord. Whereas kripa you can get immediately. It's simply a matter of desire. Simply a matter of desire means that Krishna, ultimately it's up to Krishna to award perfection, whether it's kripa siddhi or sadhana siddhi. But his awarding of the perfection, that is his mercy. So that kripa siddha means one who gets the mercy, means he places himself in a position to get the mercy. That the mercy, that naturally flows downward. So if one is, mercy means which comes from one who's in a higher position to a lower position. So if one places himself in the lower position, then he can get the mercy. But if one is simply thinking, by my own austerity, I will do, then he's not taking a humble position. So it's difficult to get the mercy. And eventually, one has to come to that position anyway, taking a humble position. Hasa Shuno Shurup Ram Rai, Ki Babe Nama Loyale, what is it? Ki Babe Nama, Shuno Shurup Ram Rai, Ki Babe Nama Loyale Prema Upajoy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Swarup Damodar and Rai Ramananda, now you listen to me. What is the method of chanting Hare Krishna? What is the technique by which love of God will be awakened? What is the technique? Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, Chunada pisa nityana, tarara pisa ishtana, amanina amanadina kirtana.